Shalom. First, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah HaKadosh. Give double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone, from whom I learned this truth. And shalom to the 144,000 elect. I am Ayakala. And I'm just going to call this, I think, Usury. And the reason I wanted to bring this out is because in the last lesson that I did, I was looking at the curses in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, particularly looking at verse 44. And it says, "He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail." That he being Esau, Edom, being the rich bankers of this world who control lending, and he should be the head, and we should be the tail. And I'm going to look up over at Psalms 22 and verse 7. And it says, Shalaki, I'm going to go to Proverbs 22 and verse 7. And it says, "The rich ruleth over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender." And that's this system that we live in. This system that we're controlled by is one where the rich, who are the bankers of this world, who are in a position to put usury on their lenders, and they're particular about how they go about putting usury on the lenders or the borrowers of this world. Because if you're in a position where you are one who has already accumulated monetary wealth and has what they call a good credit score in this world, the interest or usury that's given to an individual is subject to the credit score that you have. And I just wanted to take a look at that word usury. Going back to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and 44. Or actually, let's go to Deuteronomy 23 and 19. It says, "Thou shalt not lend upon usury to thy brother." Usury of money, usury of victuals, usury of anything that is lent upon usury. And in the NLT says, "Do not charge interest on the loans you make to a fellow Israelite, whether you loan money or food or anything else." So according to the law, when you loan something to your brother, you don't put interest on it. And let's just get a good definition of what usury is. I mean, initially we could see that it is interest. And it is H5392. And let's get a pronunciation of it.
Strong's H5392. Neshech. Neshech.
Neshech. It just simply says interest or usury. And we can even go and take a look at it, the root of the word, and get a pronunciation of it.
Strong's H, 5391. Nashach. Nashach.
And biblical usage of it, and we're going to go to definition number 2. It says to pay or give interest or lend for interest or usury. Under definition 2A, it says to give interest. 2B says to make or to give interest, to lend upon usury. It says a primitive root to strike with a sting, figuratively to oppress with interest on a loan, to bite or lend upon usury. So that's exactly what it is. Once you put an interest upon a loan, it is kind of a sting or a bite on an individual, depending upon how easily it is for them to pay it back. Because if they're coming to you for a loan, it's because they're in need of the money. They don't have the money and they need to borrow it. So why would you want to tack upon something extra on which they don't even already have it? And you want to get you ask you loan someone $10, and you ask them to give, and you tell them to give that you'll loan it to them only if they give you back $15. Now where are they supposed to get the extra $5 from? Because they're coming to you for the $10 in the first place. It's wrong for you to go to your brother and put a condition on him that he give you an extra $5 just for him to be able to borrow it from you. But being borrowers in this world, those are in a position, are in control of giving out these loans. They don't care about you. They don't care about that. So that's what they're in the business of loaning out money for, in order to make more money for themselves, because these individuals just are never satisfied. They want more and more. So in order for it to even be appetizing to them to even want to even lend you money, they have to find something that's going to make it to their benefit. They have to get something out of it. They can't just do it out of the goodness of their heart, because there is no goodness in their heart. They're just wicked, and their only thought is to how to come up, and they want to come up off of you, because you're coming to them being the borrowing. And just as Deuteronomy 28:44 says, they are the head, and in this kingdom and in this society, we are the tail. And even looking at verse 20 here in Deuteronomy 23, it says, unto a stranger thou mayest lend upon usury, but unto thy brother thou shalt not lend upon usury, that the Lord Yahweh thy power may bless thee in all that thou settest thy hand to in the land whither you goest to possess it. And since we're talking about the interest, and we're talking about these big bankers, these banks that are in the business of lending money, I just wanted to go to Google. I wanted to take a look at what the current interest rates are, because we got individuals, bankers, and that are in a position to set what the interest rates are. And I'm just going to take a look at the current interest rates. And it says, current interest rates as of August 15th, 2025. It says here's a summary of the current interest rates for various financial products. So on a 30-year fixed mortgage, the national average interest rate is 6.57%, with an annual percentage rate of 6.64%. This is down slightly from last week. So that's what most people, when they do get a mortgage, they go to the bank and ask for a loan. They usually get about a 30-year fixed rate. It says on a 15-year fixed mortgage, the national average interest rate is 5.7% with an annual percentage rating of 5.85%. Says in Ohio, mortgage rates, and that's where I am in Ohio, it says 30-year fixed 6.72%, and a 15-year fixed rate is 5.77%. Says the overall average for auto loan is 6.73% for new cars and 11.87% for used cars. Now, most people who are in a position to buy a new car, 6.7, they would say that's kind of high. But look at it, what it is for a person that's going to buy a used car, which is what most of us do. We buy used cars because one thing is, as soon as you buy a new car, as soon as you take that thing off of the lot, it begins to depreciate. So 11.8% for a used car. Now that's if you have a pretty good credit rating. And these people who are in a position who set these interest rates is what they do. They do a background check on you to see how you are about paying your bills, to see about, that's what they call and they have an evaluation that they do in a certain equation that they put these things into, and they call that's your credit score. And a supreme credit score is in between 781 and 850. So if you have a supreme credit score for a new car, your loan would be about 5.18%. For a used car, it'd be about 6.82%. Now I'm going to skip down. I'm going to skip over a lot of these other credit scores because I'm going to go all the way to the bottom. And if you have a bad credit rating, which they call a deep subprime, which is a score that's about 300 to 500%, or 300 to 500, you'll pay 15.81% interest on a new car loan and 21.58% on a used car loan. So if they rate you with a bad credit rating, or as they put it, deep subprime credit rating, whether you're buying a new car or a used car, the percentage rate, the interest that they're going to charge you on that loan is pretty high. Like I said, 15.8% for a new car, 21.5% for a used car. Says a note here, it says interest rates are dynamic and can change frequently. It's recommended to check with individual lenders and institutions for the most up-to-date rates and to compare offers from multiple sources to find the best rates for your specific needs. So basically, if you're in need of a loan, and you have a bad credit rating, could be that you were late making payments on a certain item, could be that you just had you might be filed bankruptcy in your past. They take a look at that, and there's an equation that they put these things into, and they take into account for it, and they give you a credit score rating. So even if your situation has changed, and you haven't done anything to build up your credit, you simply, let's say you cleaned up everything, and you haven't applied for any other kind of loan or any other kind of credit cards or any other type of loans, but you've been pretty good in paying all your other bills, such as your rent, your electric bill, your gas bill, or whatever else you might have. When you go to to apply for that loan, they're just going to take a look at your past history, and just based upon what that credit score is, that evaluation that they come up with come up about you, that's how your interest rate will be set. So you got to make the decision if you want to go and pay more for a car. So a car could have a value of, let's say, $5,000, and with that interest, you could end up paying double that for that car, and when it's really not even worth that. But because of your credit rating, you have to go ahead and do it, because you need to be able to get back and forth to work in order to keep the job that you have, because you need the vehicle. So it's almost like if you poor, or if you're in a bad position, they're going to make sure that you stay in that bad position. They want to make sure that they make it difficult for you to make payments, to pay off that loan. And if you don't pay off that loan, what happens? The repossession of the vehicle, and you still are required to pay back that loan. So what happens? Subsequently, you end up filing bankruptcy again if you're not able to pay that loan off. And it just keeps you with a bad credit rating. And you have to either suffer, or you have to dig yourself out so that you'll be able to build up your credit, so that you can be looked at as an individual who has a good credit rating. And who knows how long that can take. Meanwhile, you have to figure out how to get back and forth to work without having a vehicle. But I'm not going to make this very long, because I want to go over to Matthew 25 and 15. And like the law says, you won't charge your brother interest. You don't do that. That's against the law to do that. But the other nations, if you are in a position where you are a lender and you loan the other nations money, you can put usury on it. You can put interest on it, because you know that's what they would do to you. So it's not wrong for you to charge interest to these other nations. But I wanted to go over to Matthew 25, and I'm going to go down to verse 15, because Yahushua also takes use of usury. But it's a different type of usury when Yahushua is involved, because the usury that he is talking about is in an effort to bring out his elect, which is the reason why we bring these lessons out. We're praying that the elect hear these lessons, and even if you are of the elect, we don't know if we are of the elect. We pray that we are, but there are some elect who have not heard this word yet. So that's the reason why we do these lessons. That's the reason why we bring out this word, because there are some elect that are yet to be sealed. So I'm going to go to Matthew, and I'm going to go to verse 15, and I want to read this in the NLT, because in the NLT it makes this very plain for you to understand. And this is in the red letter, so this is Yahushua speaking. And it says, he gave 5 bags of silver to one, 2 bags of silver to another, and 1 bag of silver to the last, dividing it in proportion to their abilities. He then left on his trip. It says, the servants who received the 5 bags of silver began to invest the money and earned 5 more. It says the servant with 2 bags of silver also went to work and earned 2 more. And when we're talking about work here, that's what these lessons are. That's why you see those men of great millstone out on the highways and byways. They're doing the bidding. They're doing the work of the Lord. And that's why you see them bringing out his word, because you never know that if the elect are going to go by and they're going to hear these words coming out, and they're going to stop and begin to understand who they are. Verse 18, it says, "But the servant who received the 1 bag of silver dug a hole in the ground and hid the master's money." It says, "And after a long time, their master returned from his trip and called them to give an account of how they had used his money." So this is the Lord wanting to know how you put the money that he had given you into use, and what you did with it, and what kind of interest you earned on the money that he had given to you, meaning this word, meaning this truth that has been given to the men, to his men. It says, "The servant to whom he had entrusted the 5 bags of silver came forward with 5 more and said, 'Master, you gave me 5 bags of silver to invest, and I have earned 5 more.'" It says, the master was full of praise. It says, "Well done, my good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling this small amount, so I will give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together." It says, the servant who had received the 2 bags of silver came forward and said, "Master, you gave me 2 bags of silver to invest, and I have earned 2 more." The master said, "Well done, my good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling this small amount, so now I will give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together." Then the servant with the 1 bag of silver came and said, "Master, I knew you were a harsh man, harvesting crops you didn't plant and gathering crops you didn't cultivate. I was afraid I would lose your money, so I hid it in the earth. Look, here is your money back." But the master replied, "You wicked and lazy servant. If you knew I harvested crops I didn't plant and gathered crops I didn't cultivate, why didn't you deposit my money in the bank? At least I have gotten some interest on it." Then he ordered, "Take the money from this servant and give it to the one with the 10 bags of silver. Those who use well what they are given, even more will be given, and they will have an abundance. But from those who do nothing, even what little they have will be taken away. Now throw this useless servant into the outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth." Now, I wanted to bring that out in the NLT because, like I said, it brings it very plain that if you take the Lord, this word the Lord has given us, and which the great men of Great Millstone have taught to us and bring out to us and explain to us, and you just don't take this word and do anything with it, and you simply sit on it, it's just as if you buried it. And what use are you to the Most High if you don't take this word and spread it so that you can his elect could be able to come forth and hear this word? Because that's what he's doing. He's bringing back his 144,000 back to him and putting them back in rulership in the kingdom to come. So it is our duty, after we learn this word, to teach this word. And that is the whole reason why we bring forth these lessons. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and end it there. And I pray that this has been edifying to the listener. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah HaKadosh. Shalom.